Okay, we're here. I'm here. I have food. Well, I had food. Then I consumed it all. Welcome, everyone, to the campgrounds. Tonight is a very special night, as this is the first night that we've done a story since I started getting people's approvals for storytelling stuff. So, this is going to be both a test of the new system and to see how many stories I can get through in a single night. And also, just a lot of these stories I'm going to be parsing out, or I'm going to be editing into their own videos. We have a couple of different people today. The authors' names, if they're available, are going to be listed when the story gets selected. So we are giving credit to each of the authors. I will also be reading out the author's name as we start, just so everyone's clear on how this all works. And yes, I did go around on both Tumblr and Reddit, and we made sure to get as many of the authors' approvals as we could. Anything that I couldn't get approval for just didn't get approved. Anyway, now that we're doing things correctly and on the up and up, let's see, what do we have for stories? So we have 23, Creative Habits, Wrong Number, Ballad of Edgardo, Wrath of a Mother, The Farmer, Hyria and Iameta, Wizard LARP, and Predators of Legend. It should also be noted that in some cases, like Creative Habits, I couldn't find the author. So, there wasn't really that much I could do there. Those got approved automatically. Please don't submit stories like that, though. I don't want to end up in a situation where I approve something and then the author doesn't like it. Anyway, let's actually try this out. I haven't really tested it very much since we edited everything. All right, here we go. Oh, right, story roll. Speaking of creative habits. Oh, right, I actually also have to pull up. Oh, actually, this one does have the author, so I can call them out. Of course. Okay. You know what? I'm actually going to go ahead and skip this one since I couldn't find the author and it is actually listed here. Some of these also have multiple authors, and some of them are listed as anonymous, so it was impossible to get approval regardless of what I did, which is questionable. This one, however. Oh, that's interesting. Hold up. This is one of Dice's, also known as Sarah Blackwell. That should have listed a user, because I'm pretty sure that I put her in as the author. That's a bug. have to fix that. Hold up a moment. I'm gonna see if we can't patch the bot real quick before we get started. This shouldn't take long. PyCharm. So how's everyone doing? Okay. Helper functions. Ah, that's why. I only did it on one of the various roles. Okay, that's easier. Okay, easy fix. If only all my fixes could be that easy. There's another fix I'm currently working on that seems to fix the crashing, or long-term crashing bug that I was noticing. Oh, I'm gonna have to delete SFX at some point. Actually, let's do that right now. Okay. Then I'm gonna add SFX to the git ignore as well. Hey, Lucy. Wait, what? What are you doing here right now? You're supposed to be asleep. What's going on? Why are you here? Not that I'm complaining, but yeah, why are you here? I'm so confused. Hey, how's it going? We're just doing some pre-stream, what do you call it? Pre-stream bot fixing, because I just noticed a bug and it's already fixed, but then I noticed another bug, and yeah. You have one of your insomnia nights, so here you are. Well, welcome. I think this is the first time you've ever been to one of my storytelling nights, right? There we go. Now SFX is gone. Now we should be able to start up the bot, no problem. So the reason that I'm ignoring SFX is because it's a file that's actually generated every time the bot starts, and it's updated with any new sound effects commands that it needs. So it's a dynamic command generation. There it is. All right. Anyway, we had already rolled a list, and I'm actually going to go ahead and restore something. So Des gets 2. Story restore. We're going to try this again. This should attribute. Hold up. Ah, yes, this is one of the ones that had multiple authors. Okay, so here's the thing, though. Or sorry. Imagine if you called the wrong number and it ended up being a celebrity. Mom? No, this is Morgan Freeman. Here's the thing, though. I used to work for a call center, and I was doing a political survey, and I called this number that was randomly generated for me, and the way our system worked was voice activated. So when the other person said hello, you'd get connected to them. So I launched right into my Harvard University and NPR blah 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 thing. And then there's this long pause, and I think the person's hung up even though I didn't hear the click. And then I hear, you shouldn't be able to call this number. So I apologize and go into the preset spiel about because we aren't selling anything, etc., etc. And the answer I get is, no, I know that. What I mean is that it should be impossible for you to call this number, and I need to know how you got it. I explained that it's randomly generated, and I'm very sorry for bothering him, and go to hang up. And before I can click terminate, I hear, ma'am, this is a matter of national security. I accidentally called the director of the FBI. My job got investigated because a computer randomly spit out a number to the Pentagon. When I was in college, I got a job working for a company that managed, this is a different person, by the way, a company that managed major air travel data. It was a temp gig working their out-of-date system while they moved over to a new one. Since my knowing MS-DOS apparently made me qualified. There was no MS-DOS involved. Instead, there was a proprietary type-based OS and an actually uses transistors refrigerator-sized computer with switches. I had to trip at certain times during the night as I watched the data flow from switches. I had to trip at certain times during the night as I watched data flow from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. on Fridays and weekends. If things got stuck, I reset the server. The company handled everything from low-end data, hotel and car reservations, to flight plans and tower information. I was weighed every time I came in to make sure it was me. Wait, hold up. Really? Weighed? They do that? Areas of the building had retina scanners on doors. During training, they took us through the procedures, including the procedure for the red phone. There was literally a red phone on the shelf above my desk. This is a holdover from the Cold War, they said. It isn't going to come up, but here's the deal in case of nuclear war or other nationwide disaster, the phone will ring. Pick up the phone, state your name and station, and await the instructions. Do whatever you're told. So my third night there, it's around 2 a.m. and there's a ringing sound. I look up, slowly. The red phone is ringing. So I reach out, pick up the phone, I give my name and station number, and I hear every station head in the building do the exact same. One after another, voices giving names and numbers, then silence for the space of 2 breaths. Silence broken by, is Shantavia here? It turns out that every toll-free 1-900 or priority number has a corresponding local number that it routes to at its actual destination. Some poor teenage girl was trying to dial a friend of hers, mixed up the numbers, and got the atomic attack alert line for a major air travel corporation's command center in the Midwest United States. Which, I wonder how that happened. Whoops. There's another pause. And the guy over in the main data room are cracking up. The overnight site head is saying, I think you have the wrong number, ma'am. And I'm standing there having faced the specter of nuclear annihilation before I was old enough to legally drink. The red phone never rang again while I was there, so the people doing my training were only slightly wrong about their estimation of how often the doomsday phone would ring. But none of these stories even come close to the best one of them all. A wrong number is how the NORAD Santa tracker got started. Seriously, this is legit. In December 1955, Sears decided to run a Santa hotline. Here's the ad they posted. Hey, kiddies, call me direct on me. Oh, God, that's a number. Telephone, just dial me. Call me on my private phone and I will talk to you personally. Anytime, day or night, or come in and visit me at Sears Toyland, Santa Claus. Only problem is they misprinted the number. And the number they printed, it went straight through the fucking NORAD. This was in the middle of the Cold War, when early warning radar was the only thing keeping nuclear annihilation at bay. NORAD was the front line. And it wasn't just any number at NORAD. Oh, no. Terry remembers her dad had 2 phones on his desk, including a red one. Only a 4-star general at the Pentagon, and my dad had the number, she says. This was the 50s. This was the Cold War, and he would have been the first one to know if there was an attack on the United States, Rick says. The red phone rang one day in December 1955, and Shoop answers it, Pam says. And then there was a small voice that just asked, Is this Santa Claus? His children remembering Shoop as straight-laced and disciplined, and he was annoyed and upset by the call and thought it was a joke. But then, Terry says, the little voice started crying. And Dad realizes that it wasn't a joke, her sister says. So he talked to him, ho-ho-hoed and all that. If he had been a good boy, and may I talk to your mother? And the mother got on and said, You haven't seen the paper yet? There's a phone number to call Santa. It's in the Sears ad. Dad looked it up, and there it was, his red phone number. And they had children calling, one after another. So he put a couple of airmen on the phones to act like Santa Claus. So this is how wow. It got to be a big joke at the command center. You know, the old man's really flipped his lid this time. We're answering Santa Claus calls. And then it got better. The airmen had this big glass board with United States on it and Canada, and when airplanes would come in, they would track them, Pam says. And Christmas Eve of 1955, when Dad walked in, there was a drawing of a sleigh with 8 reindeer coming over the North Pole, Rick says. Dad said, "What's that?" They say, "Colonel, we're sorry. We were just making a joke. Do you want us to take it down?" Dad looked at it for a while, and the next thing you know, Dad had called the radio station and had said, "This is the commander of the Combat Alert Center. We have an unidentified flying object. Why, it looks like a sleigh." Well, the radio station would call him like every hour and say, "Where's Santa now?" Terry says. And later in life, he got letters from all over the world, people saying, "Thank you, Colonel, for having, this sense of humor." And in his 90s, he would carry those letters around with him in a briefcase that had a lock on it, like it was a top secret information. He was an important guy, but this is the thing he's known for. It's probably the thing he was proudest of, too. All right. It is a lot of fun. I hope you're having fun, too. How's your day going, Lucius? I mean, aside from the insomnia, I guess. Day was Gucci. Nice. Shall we roll another one? Ah, there we go. Now it's working correctly. Okay, the next story is Predators of Legend, written by Petrified Lioness. You can follow along at that link. I was actually really surprised to get a response back on Reddit. I don't know why. You've been doing some lovely games and also some school stuff. Nice. Okay, this is available on Humanity Fuck Yeah, which is a Reddit on, Reddit. A subreddit on Reddit. Okay. Predators of Legend. Transcript of Xenobiology tutor Hydrax's lecture about the royal larvae on Predators of Legend. Entered into the record of competency hearing of the competency hearing of Crown Prince Hydraulic Stoll. I think I'm saying that right. Hydraulic Stoll. The recording system was not arranged correctly to catch the prince's question. Every speaking race has one, a parasitic predator unique to their species that is just subtle enough and just rare enough that they can never quite prove it exists. It's only when they meet some other species with a different sensory profile and different weaknesses, a mixture that makes them both immune to and able to detect the first race's predator, that the race learns the truth behind their legends. The Alex have their Dream Eaters. The Corandrums have their Shadow Wraiths. The Trunts have their Bog Dogs. The humans have their vampires. When most species learn that their legendary predator does exist, they generally do their best to leave it stranded on their home planet. Some species have more success than others. There are many former colonies quarantined over partial failures. Some failed before they even knew they needed to try, and choose to keep company with members of other species that can see their predator. This is the basis of most brother by oath interspecies alliances. I can kill your predator, and you can kill mine. The humans are the only race to have brought their predator to the stars with them on purpose. The poor man's nuclear option, they call it. A starving vampire is a massacre. A vampire with a vendetta is a genocide. Oh, God damn it. Yeah, the vampires can only live on human blood, but they're strong enough to kill pretty much any other species, and a vampire at full strength can turn quasi-material enough to kill even the least substantial types of other species. Predators. Sunlight or radiation leak will weaken a vampire enough that it can be killed, but this only gives you a fighting chance. It doesn't guarantee victory. Even a weakened vampire is still significantly stronger than a human, with a human's intelligence and versatility. That sunlight weakness of vampires might be why humans are the one species that can sometimes detect and kill their own legendary predator. Or it might be that every vampire was once a human. Yeah, that was my reaction too. Every other species, their predator is inherently other. The human's predator appears to be an optionally metamorphic dead-end stage of the human life cycle. The problem with this predator of predators that the humans call vampire being formerly human is that humans are, among their myriad attributes, the single most vindictive species you never hope to cross. If they can't stop you from killing them, or at least make sure you die in the doing, they will burn their own homes and glass their own worlds to keep you from profiting by their death. Some call it spite, but it's something far beyond spite. Something best summed up as never again. In a twisted sort of way, it's protective. All this destruction they wreak is to keep you from preying on any innocents after them. The bastard offspring of spite and love. Jealousy. That's the word I'm looking for. Took me a while to figure it out because so many humans say jealous when the correct word would be envious. So, humans are an extraordinarily jealous species. For love or for spite, they take care of their own. The reason they insist on explicit treaties and written contracts, it's not that they're dishonorable, seeking a letter of laws in which to find loopholes. It's that they know they will rend the heavens and raise the earth to avenge any betrayal of trust implicit. Their jealousy isn't entirely a bad thing. A human who calls you heartkin will turn stars from their courses in order to rescue you from a tight spot, or to avenge you, if rescue comes too late. Allying with humans is, admittedly, as they put it, the poor man's nuclear option. What? No. The only way to conquer a group of humans is to make yourself their conqueror. If you can't... Excuse me. If you can't understand the distinction, well, may you get what you deserve fast enough that the rest of us don't get glassed. Anyway, most vampires are fond of their humans and a bit overprotective as a result. And humans are often a bit fond of their vampires. There was a time, long since past, when humans were all horrified by the thought of drinking human blood and regarded the vampires as an abomination to be exterminated. But then the humans discovered that if one of their wounded was dying from loss of blood, they could inject the blood from other humans and keep him alive. Yes, they have blood substitutes now. But since their hemoglobin does a lot more than just transport oxygen, none of those substitutes work very well. And before they mastered gene splicing, they had a variety of hereditary diseases that made the human who had the disease require regular infusions of blood or blood component collected from other humans to survive. So the humans have come to regard vampirism as just a pathology that happens to have some useful secondary symptoms. No, even humans who are phobic about needles or who faint at the sight of blood might show up for one of their blood drives after a major disaster. They rarely have to resort to their less effective blood substitutes. Vampires have no trouble finding willing blood donors in exchange for lending a hand to those tasks where brute force really is the best solution. You can't beat a vampire for brute force in a confined space. The human predator walks openly among its not exactly prey, regarded sort of as an older brother, who's a bit of a jerk at times, but who can be counted on to beat the stuffing out of anyone who threatens the family. Don't even think about going vampire hunting unless the humans are begging for any and all help in putting down a rabbit. What? What? Have you been listening to a single word I said? Is there nothing but slimy and mealworms where your brain should be? Going to war with humans is suicide. Even a solitary atom of silicon has more intelligence than that. I'd do better to replace all of the emergency oxygen candles with carbon monoxide generators. I might as well go swimming in a lead overcoat as allow you to launch this traitorous armada. God damn it. I was on a roll and then I hit armada. Let me try that again. What? What? Have you been listening to a single word I said? Is there nothing but slimy and mealworms where your brain should be? Going to war with humans is suicide. Even a solitary atom of silicon has more intelligence than that. I'd do better to replace all the emergency oxygen candles with carbon monoxide generators. I might as well go swimming in a lead overcoat as allow you to launch a traitorous armada. I'd be as well served to give you a barrel of foof. What is foof? To play with a sponsor. Sponsor this self-defeating invasion. No, I'd be better served to give you a barrel of foof to play with. Play with? Okay, what is foof? With the foof, we'd both be dead at once with most of the rest of the planet spared. Do I really need to transcribe all 14 hours of this rant? Even if he technically manages to never repeat himself, it's going to get pretty repetitive. Good times. All right, let's do another story roll. Ooh, this is one by Illadice, also known as Sarah Blackwell. A common person to be submitted here. This is Hyria and Iameta. Okay, give me a moment. Hyria and Iameta. Hyria the healer was not a difficult goddess to serve. Which was not to say the service was easy. Service to Hyria took one into dangerous places and dangerous work. A dedicate of Hyria went into war and plague and famine, risked death in 1,000 ways, over and over again. And yet it wasn't difficult to serve her, if you were the right kind of person. For a person who looked at the sick or wounded and starving and longed for help, or starving and longed for help, it was the easiest thing in the world. Hyria marked her devotees in a way impossible to disguise or to mistake. It was possible to replicate the blue tattoos to an extent, though the blindfold was hard to do, eyelids being difficult. The band around the wrist was easier, but only Hyria could make them glow with that faint spectral light. No one could look on that light and not know exactly who they were looking at. There were stories about it. About the 6 healers who had walked onto a battlefield and stood between the 2 armies, and stopped the battle cold, for neither side had dared to lift a hand against the healers. About proud gods who drove out the humble Hyrian healers. Let me try that again. About the humble... Pardon. About the proud gods who drove out the humble Hyrian healers, so that only their priests could heal, and cities emptied by disease spreading from the poorest quarters, where the proud priests would not go. About the warlord, who, having struck his enemy down, saw a Hyrian healer kneel to help the man, and in fury struck the healer down as well. and died the next moment with a dozen arrows in his back, fired by his own men. About the villagers struck by plague, who saw the blue lights approaching through the mist and opened their barricaded gates to hope. About terrible battles that lasted from dawn until dusk, and in nights full of pale blue lights moving among the fallen, and 100 or 200 or 500 men found living on the field the next morning. Temples of Hyria rose in odd places. In busy cities, in border towns, in little villages with no apparent rhyme or reason. Only a certainty in the part of some priest or priestess that there would be need of them. They were good at predicting need. In this particular small border town, the temple was a smaller one. 2 priests and a priestess and 2 novices, enough to tend the needs of a small town and a small garrison, until the long winter came. Winter that struck early and hard, with blizzard after blizzard coming to pile snow against the walls, until it rose so high and froze so hard that an invader could walk up the slope and be halfway up the wall, three man heights up. When the orc raiders came, the fight was bloody and terrible, and when the fighting was over, a priest and priestess tended the wounded within, and one, the strongest, climbed over the wall to tend the wounded among the orcs who lay in the snow. He tended them all through one night, and was still working when dawn came, sewing up their wounds that should have killed, pushing spilled intestines back into place, replacing lost blood with sips of potion and infusions of magic.
"Why?"
the orcs asked.
"Why do you help us when we are your enemies?"
My goddess Hyria is a healer, and no one who needs healing is her enemy. When he finished, he was too weary to climb over the wall again, and 3 of the orcs who had been healed by him lifted him over the wall. Then the surviving raiders left, with no more fighting. But a week later, another raiding party came, and the fight was bloody and terrible. Again, the priest climbed over the wall, and spent all of the night healing the wounded, against the protests of the garrison commander. "They will come back in another week," the commander said, disgusted. "And they will have more fighters because of you." "They will not come back," the priest said. "The first raiders wore the sign of 2 crossed ram's horns. These raiders wore the sign of a flying eagle, and they did not know me. They were not the same." 2 weeks later, another raid came, and the fighting was even more bloody and terrible than the first 2 times. Again, the priest climbed over the wall and spent all night healing the wounded. "If you go again," the garrison commander had told him, "do not come back, for I will hang you from the walls as a traitor." So, when dawn came, and he was exhausted, the priest went to the commander of the 3rd group of raiders, who wore the sign of a flint arrowhead painted on his leather armor. "You are the 3rd raiders to come to us," he said, and he was so weary that he swayed where he stood. "The first raiders bore the sign of crossed ram's horns, and a second of a flying eagle, and now you are here. I have tended the wounded each time. I know that your warriors are thin and weak from lack of food, and if the warriors are hungry, your kinsfolk must also Your kinsfolk must also. Take me to your village, and I will help you." The orc commander had no love for humans, but he was a just and honorable man. He had seen the healer tending the enemies of his people with compassion and kindness, and knew his magic to be strong.
"I will take you,"
he said,
"but you cannot help us."
In that he was wrong. Hyria was a healer not only of flesh and bone, but of land and plants, and all her priests were gardeners. The priest had brought seeds with him, hidden inside his robes, and in the orc village he taught the people a new way of gardening. He brought tubs and barrels of earth into their long houses, where they could be kept from freezing, and planted the seeds he had brought. With his magic he sped their growth, and within days the people had fresh green leaves to eat, and mushrooms and other good things. When the enchantments on the earth were strong enough, he went to the commander. "Take me to the people who wear the sign of the ram's horns," he said, "for they need me also." Under flags of truce, the priest traveled to every village in that region, enchanting earth and planting seeds that would grow quickly and nourish those who were hungry. One tribe had a cave where they grew their own mushrooms until the cold had become too great, and he laid spells of warmth so they could grow again. There a young orc came to him and said, "I wish to become your apprentice and learn this magic. Will your goddess accept one of our people?" "If you wish to become a novice, I will accept you," the priest said, seriously. "Hyria does not distinguish between orc and man, dwarf or elf, but heals all. But understand this. To serve Hyria, you must give up being a warrior forever. One can be a warrior, or one can be a healer, but one can never be both." The young orc was troubled, for among his people every man must become a warrior if he is to have status. For 3 days he thought, and on the 3rd day he came to the priest again, and he brought his sister with him. "I cannot give up my warrior's place, for it is my duty to my family. But can a woman learn your magic?" "Yes," the priest said. "There are many priestesses of Hyria. I will take her as a novice if she wishes it." Other women came, after the first, and then men as well. A man who had lost an arm or leg in battle was no longer a warrior, and lost no status in giving up his weapons. Some could not give up a warrior's thinking, and failed their novitiate. But others succeeded. The long winter was past then, but the winter gardens continued to thrive. 3 winters passed, and then the priest gathered his students. "Hyria has told me that it is time for me to go back. You know all that I can teach you, and no longer need my help." "We thank you," said the first priestess. "You have given us much and asked nothing in return." "I have given you nothing," the priest touched her forehead lightly, in blessing. "I have only shared knowledge which is not lessened by sharing, and time, which passes at the same speed wherever it is spent. The knowledge I gave I still have, and the time I gave would have passed wherever I was." When he returned to the town, his red beard was long and braided, and his woolen robe was worn and patched. The commander of the garrison had long ago forgotten his threat, so the priest returned to his temple and took up his old life. For 15 years the border town was quiet, and no orc appeared at their walls again. The garrison was diminished, soldiers sent away to more dangerous posts, and the town thrived. In the 16th year, civil war racked the kingdom. There was fighting everywhere, all through the kingdom, and at last it reached the border town, in the form of a small army more than large enough to raise that town entirely. They approached slowly, so that their fear would weaken the hearts of the people in that town, and they would surrender. They attacked in the morning, at first light, and the fighting was bloody from the first. But at noon of that day, arrows poured into the attacking army from both sides, out of the trees, long arrows from great bows too large for any human arm to draw. Stones rained on them from slings swung by mighty arms, and a wind like ice blew, though it was the middle of summer. Orc warriors wearing the signs of many tribes flowed out of the trees, and the attacking soldiers quailed, and then turned and fled, trampling their own officers in terror. And when they were driven away, the warriors stood back, and other orcs, robed in dyed leather and tattooed in glowing blue, walked out of the forest. Some went to tend their fallen foes, but 3 approached the gate.
"Bring the priest of Hyria," they called, "for we must speak to him of debt."
There was white in the red beard now, but he still wore it long and braided, as he had when he met his students. He walked out of the gate and greeted them with the affection of an older brother. There is no debt between us, no, nor ever was, he told them. I gave away nothing and gained much.
There is no debt between us, nor ever was,
said his first student, robed as a high priestess now, and she smiled at him with sharp teeth.
But our goddess Iameta, who is a goddess of war, owes your goddess much. She could not help us when we fought against winter and hunger. She could do nothing when her children starved and died. But your goddess, who is a healer and does not love warriors, still sent you to save us. Now we have come to save you, for your goddess is a healer and could not protect you against an army. And when those invaders are driven out of the mountains and away from your towns, Iameta's debt will be repaid.
The priest bowed. That I am grateful to Iameta, and any debt owed to Hyria will be paid indeed. There is nothing I or our brothers and sisters in faith can do when soldiers come, but tend the fallen and bury the dead. We are grateful for the strong arms of Iameta's followers, who will protect those we cannot. The warriors and the healers kept their word, and pursued the invaders all the way to the base of the mountains, rescuing towns besieged and garrisons overrun, laying the dead to rest and tending the wounded. From that time, trade was opened between the orcs and humans living in the border towns, and Iameta, the goddess of war and bravery, and Hyria, the goddess of healing and cultivation, were honored equally among both peoples. When warriors were needed to defend the people, the healers stood aside, and when fighting was done, the warriors stood aside in turn, so the healers could do their work. In time, the mountain people withdrew from the kingdom that had once ruled them, and the Alliance lands stood independent of any rulers but their own, human and orc together. All right. This has been Iameta and Hyria by Sarah Blackwell. Hope everyone enjoyed that one. I just noticed that came out on on New Year's Eve. Oh, by the way, Lucy, is he still around? Well, that's good. You were talking about log gain, right? This is the real secret to why Desalona has so many logs. Every time that she submits a story for me to read, that is another 50 logs. So you can do that too. This is easily the fastest way to gain logs if you want. You just have to look for them. I don't have the time to search for this many stories myself, so Desalona finds them for me. And then if a story gets read, that's even more usually. Exactly. Wait, are you intending to submit some of your own stories? Oh, right. You do writing, don't you? I forgot. And yes, technically, that would all work. Most of the stories that I have, I go to the author first and approve them. Some of them don't actually have authors, or more correctly, their authors are anonymous and I can't really go to them anyway. So those get auto-approved. But most of the rest of them, are submitted by viewers. You can also select a story so that it gets put into a the initial roll if you want to see something specific. Let's see. We get 23 this time. Oh, did I ever get... Hold up. Oh, this is another one where I couldn't find the author. And this is a visual one. Okay. This is on Muse Bunnies, but she is not the one who made it, apparently. In less than 3 minutes, I'll be 23. A part of me knows that that nothing will change between then and now. And yet, the truth is, I will never be the same again. I'm actually going to... can I zoom in a little bit? Oh, God. There we are. I will never be the same again. Looking at the photos in our living room, I realize that the reality I hold close to my heart is nothing but a reflection of the past. Was the present always this fragile? I'm no longer the person in the photos of us that I cherish. I haven't been her in a long time. How did I miss the white strands in your hair until now? As I sit here, a thought crystallizes within me. The future really is inevitable. Isn't it cruel? The people I keep close, the memories I create, the happiness I feel. Will evaporate one by one, and there's nothing I can do about it. So filled with anger and sadness, I abandon all caution. And hopelessly dream of eternal stasis. My growth, my future, I wish I could replace them with our daily routine. The way we make our teas from the same bag because you keep insisting that otherwise it's too strong. I'll answer that in a moment. The slightly upset tone when you asked me to read the fine print before you left your classes in the other room. The excitement I feel on every Friday night, because I know we get to eat breakfast together the next morning. Your toothy smile, your terrible jokes, your welcoming warmth, they all remind me there's nothing else like you, and there never will be. How lucky I am, or how lucky am I to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard. Ah, I'm 23 now. All right. Okay, so to answer your question, Lucius, there are not really any rules to stories that can be submitted as long as... Actually, I guess there are some. First, let me know who the author is, if you can. If it is a story that doesn't have an author, or more appropriately, the author is anonymous, then go ahead. Just let me know. I do find the author of each of these stories if I can and approve them before I actually, read them. Second, comics are sort of hard to do. So just take that into consideration when submitting comics. Someone tried to submit Naruto, and I was just like, no. Let's see, what else? I don't really care that much about subject material as long as it's like within the EULA of Twitch. Personally, I kind of am like, as long as it serves the story, any subject material is fine. But it has to serve the story. It can't just be gratuitous. Yeah, that's really about it. Submit the author, make sure that it just consider whether it's a good story to actually do a reading on stream or a live reading. And that's pretty much all. Okay. This is Wrath of a Mother, written by Sarah Blackwell, another one by Illadice. Okay, the Mother of Monsters. I am a power of darkness. Demon, I am called, or monster, or spirit. And because my name is known in the mortal realms, I am summoned sometimes. Many summoners, too weak or too ignorant to hold me, I have devoured. Others I have corrupted or misled. I do not like to be summoned, and I make those who call on me pay. When the new summon comes, weak and faltering, I am annoyed. I do not like to be drawn from my own realm, without my will or my choice. I wreathe my form in flame and shadow. Then just as I am drawn through, I hear something I have not heard before. Please, the voice begs. Please come, Mother of Monsters. Please. I let the fire and the shadows slip away. Instead, I step through clothed in an appearance closer to my true self, which I allow none to see. Crimson scales cover my skin, and claws are on my hands and feet, and great horns rise from my skull. And yet, I am formed not so differently from a human being, with 2 arms and 2 legs, 2 eyes in my face, and a mouth capable of speech. This is the form I wear when I do not wish to intimidate too much. The summoner is kneeling in front of the circle. Great Eresidene, Mother of Monsters, I beg you to answer my petition, he implored, staring up at me with wide eyes. Please, please, I know my offerings are poor, but just a little. The offerings are indeed poor. No cow or horse slain for me, not even a goat or fowl. A squirrel, tiny on the offering stone. Beside it, a handful of nuts, a little scrap of honeycomb discolored with age, a wooden cup half filled with milk, a few shiny pebbles, and yet the power of the sacrifice is great, far greater than it should be, greater than many I have been offered. I look again at the summoner, leaning toward the edge of the circle that contains me, reaching out with my senses, and I see him. I see a child, no more than 14. There are scars all over his skin, and he is hungry and thin. Blood drips from his back, from a beating bare hours past. He is clad in rags, and the eyes he lifts to my face are full of suffering. Then I understand the power of the offerings. When a summoner gives all they have, holding nothing back, there is great power in that.
These poor offerings are all this child has to give, and half-starved as he is, he may die of hunger for their loss. I am a creature of wrath. I am always angry, because that is my nature. But this enrages me. My claws lengthen, and so do my teeth. My horns rise, and spikes bristle down my back. The boy trembles in fear, but he does not look away from me. He does not run. He has nowhere to run to. No hope, save me. So I lower my head and place my hands flat on the dirt, where the claws are not so obvious. What do you ask of me, child? He swallows hard. You are the mother of monsters, he says, his voice shaking. Those who summon you are changed. You give them strength and power, and their forms change. They grow claws or fur or terrible fangs. I smile, remembering how angry many of them were to find the power I gave them came at a price. Yes, you know that, and yet you summoned me. He falls on his face before me. Please, Aristodenae, please make me a monster. Give me the face and form of a terrible beast. It startles me. I have often been asked for power, and the monstrous forms were the price I exacted for it. Never has anyone asked me to become a monster. Why? He lifts his grimy face. There are tears running from it. When he lifts his grimy face, there are tears running down it. So I can fight them, he says, his voice breaking. So I can fight back. Please, give me the strength I need to fight. I crouch down closer to him, gazing at him with glowing red eyes that should terrify him, and yet he stares at me unafraid. Who? I ask, and my voice is hot and rasping with rage I can barely contain. Has done this to you? Who do you need to fight? Words pour out of him in a jumble. Taxes and oppressive lords and a cruel king. Laws that crush the weak into the dust, that starve the people while the palace feasts. That beat children for not being able to do as much as a grown man. All he wants is to protect his village, to be strong enough to defy the Lord's soldiers, to not see his family and friends starving slowly around him. He was a clever boy, unable to read, but able to remember every word from every tale he'd ever heard. He pieced together enough monster tales to summon me, knowing I might devour him, and counted it a risk worth taking. I am a demon. I am a creature of darkness and rage. But I am, in truth, what they call me. I am a mother of monsters. When the strong come to me and demand power, I destroy them. Now that a child comes asking to be made one of my children, that is different. I feel the difference in every fiber of my being, and though my scales shiver and my horns curl with rage, it is not at him. You cannot save one village, I tell him. It will not work. There are other lords and armies. I cannot make you invulnerable. The circle wasn't very good. I could have left at any time. Now I step out of it and lift the boy gently to his feet, and his trembling eases as I smooth back his filthy hair from his face with a mother's gentle touch. But I can give you something better. I step back and run my hands along my sides, drawing glittering crimson scales away. Again and again I do it, until 100 scales fill my large clawed hands. Take one, I tell him. Swallow it, and help it down with the milk. He takes one of the scales, a glittering scrap of ruby the size of his thumbnail. He must expect it to hurt him when he swallows it, but he does not protest, only takes up the cup of milk and swallows both together. The scale does not hurt him, even as he swallows. The magic it was made of softens and flows with the milk to become a part of him. Then he looks up at me.
Will I become a monster now?
Yes. I incline my head, but not immediately. In the first moon, your body will heal and grow strong. In the second, you will begin to grow taller. In the third, your magic will become strong. In the fourth, you will begin to change. By the end of the sixth moon, you will be the monster you wish to be.
My hands are full, so I touch the tip of my tail to the cup in his hand, and it changes to become a small, drab wooden box. Carefully, I pour the 99 other scales into the box and close it, my claws forming a cage around the box and his hands for a moment.
You must find 99 others, boys and girls like you, willing to serve the Mother of Monsters, to fight with you. Be cautious. Tell them that they must sacrifice themselves, as you were willing to sacrifice yourself, that they must give up their humanity and never change back. Only those willing to give their own lives to protect those they care for may take the scale and live. Those who hunger for power in their hearts will be destroyed by it.
He nodded slowly. Some of those whom you gave power were like that. Monsters who destroyed their own kin, their own people.
That will not happen this time. They will only die.
I stroke his dirty hair again, and magic slides over his body, healing the wounds he has suffered.
When you have an army of 100 monsters, their change is complete. Summon me again. Then the Mother of Monsters will show her children her true power.
Time does not pass in my realm, as it does in the mortal one. But now I am impatient, and it seems to drag. I summon my own children, the demons and spirits born of my power, and tell them what I have done. 100 children I have spun of my own essence, and 100 mortal children have I claimed in the mortal realm. When the summons come, I tell them they will come and fight beside their mortal brothers and sisters. They are not gentle, my children, and they relish the chance to feast on mortal flesh. But they are angry, as I am angry, about the boy, about the children. Each one of them grew to adulthood in my realm, loved and nurtured, knowing nothing of pain or fear until the demon's rage came on them and they were ready to embrace it. Each was taught strength only when they were old enough to be strong. They rage at the cruelty of those who would hurt a child for gain, who would force them to know want and suffering. When the summons come, I step through. This time, the summoning circle is on a mountainside, not in a field. And when I step through, I see the children who have chosen me for their mother. Torchlight gleams on fangs and scales, on coarse fur and long spines, on wings and tails and horns. They are beautiful, my monstrous children. And when one steps forward and kneels before me, I know him. He is much larger now than he was, a creature of human nightmares, standing 7 feet tall, with indigo dark skin and huge bat-like wings, clawed and fearsome. But his eyes are the same dark eyes, lifted to mine now with joy and hope.
"Welcome, Mother,"
he says, holding out his hands to me.
"Your children greet you."
For 1,000 years, men will tell of that time, of the army of monsters and demons that roared down the mountains. Hold up. Where was I? For 1,000 years, men will tell of that time, of the army of monsters and demons that roared down out of the mountains, slaughtering warriors and nobles, of seven-headed dragons that stepped past fleeting children to tear a landlord into pieces, of giant wolfmen who fed on the viscera of warriors while their servants stood untouched, of a great winged shadow that snatched a beggar girl out from under falling wreckage, then turned and ripped out the throat of a rich man. Streets ran red with blood of the wicked, castles burned and palaces crumbled, and at last an army of monsters stood in the remains of the kingdom's castle before the gathered families of the king and his nobles. Then magic shivered over them again, and they stood in their true forms, peasant boys and girls between 10 and 16, scarred and thin and dirty, but still surrounded by monsters, for my children stood by their mortal brothers and sisters still. They will tell of the boy who stepped forward and told the cowering women and children that those who died and had brought it on themselves, that when faced with starvation and suffering and endless misery, even children may choose to become monsters, that subjects who suffer will rise, to be better or to die. I do not know if they will record that he turned to me then and asked, "Mother, why have we changed back? You told us the change was forever." I smiled down at him, so proud of the boy and the monster he chose to be, and touched his cheek with a flaming hand that does not burn him. Then I look out at the mortal children who turned to a demon for aid when no god or mortal answered their cries.
I told you that you must be willing to never change back. But you have done well, and Mother is proud. So I leave the choice to all of you. The mortal and the monster are both within you, and which you become will always be your choice. Whatever you choose, you are my children, now and always. The Mother of Monsters does not forget.
Some choose to return to mortality, some to resume their monstrous forms. Most choose, as my boy does, to retain both natures. When I and my immortal children have left, he is soon proclaimed king, and from then on the country is a peaceful and prosperous one. Over the throne, the face of the Mother of Monsters smiles or snarls, depending on how you see it. And the children with the blood of monsters are loved and cared for beside their mortal kin. It changes me, this summoning, these mortal children. I feel the power their love feeds me, a gentler power than has ever entered my realm before, and the perpetual anger fades. I may even become a goddess in time. No tame creature of order, for my nature cannot change as much as that, but a wild and unpredictable creature of kindness and cruelty, a protector to the children and a scourge to the strong. My children, too, feel the change, and often return to the kingdom where their mortal brothers and sisters live, to protect it and prey on its wicked. Other children call on me now, when desperation shows them no other way. And I always answer, I am a mother, after all. Another fun one. I do enjoy all of Elodice's stories. I should ask her how long she's been writing. And welcome, NB. So give the author, pay attention to if it's actually readable on stream, and no, oh, this character is depressed because you say so. Yeah, exactly. If they're depressed because it actually makes sense for the story, then sure, I don't really care. But if there's just like super heavy content for basically no reason, then that goes a little bit over. And I'm going to, first of all, I am going to be reading these stories before I actually approve them. Second of all, just use your best judgment when submitting them. You just finished playing through the new Google Doodle. It was a fun Olympics homage. The Olympics are coming up, aren't they? I'll have to consider that. Man, we went through a lot of stories really fast. Oh, they're... Huh. Why are they continuing to go on with the whole pandemic still not quite resolved? Wait, where are they being held right now? Wasn't there an outbreak where they were being held? Why haven't they been canceled? God, stupid people being stupid. God, the state of the virus right now really pisses me off. Because for a lot of us, it's over. There is no more pandemic. But there's just so many people who refuse to end it. Anyway. Shall we do another one? Does anyone want to select a story before we start? I guess there's only 3 stories and we'll probably get through all of the rest of them. Yeah. Yeah, you won't get anything out of selecting them. Oh, by the way, I completely forgot to tell you, Lucius. Selecting a story, if it's not your own, increases the amount of points that that person gains. If it doesn't actually get rolled, then it goes back into the pile and it keeps that point value. So the idea is that you want to submit stories that sound interesting to other people. There's sort of a meta game going on there. All right. Anyway, the final dice fiction. Another Sarah Blackwell one. Okay. This one is called The Farmer, or at least that's the title it was submitted with. It doesn't actually seem to have a title. They say that if you walk through the North Woods at twilight, all the ways to the crossroads, a 5th road will appear. They say the signpost grows a new arm, pointing to that road, but what is written on it is unreadable. They say that now and then someone foolish or desperate goes down that road. Many do not return. Those who do come back changed. I walked through the woods of twilight every night for a week. On the 8th day, when I reached the crossroads, a narrow path was there, leading off at an angle from the crossroads, from the cross dirt roads, and winding through the trees. When I looked up at the signpost, a 5th arm had appeared, and the writing on it was not in any language I know. Besides the letters, however, I saw a stalk of wheat and a bird. That was enough. I hefted the pack on my back and set off down the path. The path was narrow, but it was smooth. It was smooth enough to walk even as the light faded. When full darkness came, I lit my lantern and continued walking. I walked until the moon was up, and then at last the trees thinned, and I stepped into a clearing. There was a farm holding here, fields and buildings silvered by moonlight, and one by one, with light streaming out of it, warm and welcoming. Oh, sorry. Let me try that again. There was a farm holding here, fields and buildings silvered by moonlight, and one open door with light streaming out of it, warm and welcoming. There seemed nothing else to do, so I walked over to it and knocked on the open door. "Come in, wanderer, if you mean no harm." The voice is serene, but there's a strange echoing quality to it. I enter slow and cautious. The inside of the house is all one room, in the old style, with stores hanging from the thick beams, a big fireplace on one wall, and a low box bed in one corner. A woman is sitting in a chair by the fire, knitting by the light of 2 candles stuck to the back of the chair. "Come in," she says again, turning her head to look at me, her voice still echoing, as if it comes from a deep well or an ancient tomb. "Come in and get warm." There's nothing I could describe about her appearance to frighten anyone. Interesting way to put it. She looked like any farm wife, solid and capable, hair coiled around her head in gray-streaked braids, her drab skirts tucked around her legs. And yet, when she looked at me, I quailed and almost fled. There was something about her that was terrifying, a feeling of not malice, but of power held in reserve. If I had meant harm, I think that look would have struck me dead. As it was, it waited to see what I would do. "I followed the path," I blurted, trembling. "I saw it in the twilight, and I came." "I see," she said, still waiting patiently. "And why did you come, child?" Because the words rise up and choke me. There are so many reasons, so much boiling inside me. "Because I'm cursed," I say at last, my eyes filling with tears. "Because I bring ill luck wherever I go. I thought whatever was down the path couldn't be worse than what I left behind. Even if I died, it couldn't be worse. I remember the graves I've left behind me, of those I loved, of the hard words and threats, of children dragged away for fear of my curse touching them." She rises then and comes to me, laying her hands lightly on my head. It is warm and soft like any hand, yet it is much, much heavier than any hand should be. She cocks her head, eyes distant, and then she smiles sadly. "It's not a curse, child," she says gently. "Just ill luck and superstition, and cowards putting blame where it does not belong. Come and sit by the fire and eat something." She gives me stew and a chunk of bread and a cup of strong beer. When I am finished, she spreads a pallet before the fire and covers me in blankets of thick wool. I sleep well for the first time in longer than I can remember. "What are you?" I ask her the next morning as we eat breakfast. "Are you a goddess?" She smiles slightly. "I'm a farmer," she says simply. "And if you wish to stay, you may, though you must work." "I'm not afraid of work," I say, truthfully. "But I am unlucky." She shakes her head. "You will not be unlucky here," she says, so firmly that I believe her. The farm is strange. The small fields of wheat and oats rustle constantly, even when there is no wind. The cattle have horns that shine like silver and gold. The pigs lay out rune sticks in their pens and examine them carefully, conferring together. The sheep, all solid black or white, watch me with knowing eyes and trample circles and patterns into the grass where they graze. And the chickens, well, all chickens are strange, but these are more so. And sometimes they lay eggs that rattle or hum or burn the fingers when they are touched. And yet they are still cows and pigs and goats and chickens. They still need to eat and drink, to be milked and mucked out, to have little injuries tended and ears scratched now and then. The vegetable garden and herb garden need weeding and tending. Wool must be spun, flour must be ground, herbs must be dried. It is a farm, just a strange one. I have been here for some time, a week or month, I'm not sure, when I hear a loud cawing. When I come out of the house, brushing flour off my hands, that there is something sitting on the farmer's shoulder. It looks like the skeleton of a bird with a beak still attached, and yet it is clearly alive. She's holding a slip of parchment, reading it carefully. Someone will be coming, she tells me when she sees me, for one of the cows. And when he comes, you must take all but 3 into the byre, and stay there with them, for he should not see you. She does not tell me why, and I do not ask. Instead, I brush 3 of the cows. Sorry, is she taking all 3 cows or all but 3? Huh. I brush 3 of the cows, 1 red, 1 black, and 1 white, until they gleam. And when she gives the word, I lead the other cows and the bull into the byre. They go quietly and wait quietly, nosing me now and then, as if to remind me that I must be quiet too. When we come out, the white cow is gone, and the farmer is counting silver coins. Why? I ask curiously. Was it the white cow? Because it was the white cow he needed. The farmer puts the silver back into its pouch and drops it into one of the storage jars. From the clink, there's more money in there. It all depends, you see, on what one needs the cows to do. Sometime later, at least 1 moon, perhaps more, I'm feeding the chickens when an unfamiliar voice calls out. When I look, a path has opened in the wall of trees. Not the path I came down, but one much closer to the byre, and a tall old man is coming out. He has a long white beard, down past his waist, and long white hair, and a worn robe of undyed wool. He is walking with a long staff, but seems quite hale and hearty. He gives me a wave, but it is the farmer who he goes to meet. They confer for a moment, and then she nods and leads him over to the pig pen. He leans over the wall and talks to the pigs for a while, though I am too far away to hear what he says, and then opens the gate. One of the pigs, a white female, walks out and follows the old man back towards the path. As they pass, the chickens run. She stops and grunts what I think is a farewell. Goodbye, I call, waving to her. The old man looks at me, then smiles. You are helping on farm, yes? It is clear that he doesn't speak my language well, but it seems kindly meant. Yes, I'm helping. I try to use simple words. I was cursed, unlucky, so I came here. I'm not unlucky here. The old man nods, seems to understand. Good, good. He leans over to put his hand on my head, the way the farmer did. His hand is cool, but strangely heavy, just like hers. Blessing on you, he says, and his voice is kind. Not much power, aye, but blessing. Thank you. My eyes sting, and I try to keep my voice from breaking. I don't think anyone has ever blessed me before, not since I was a child. I keep tending the farm. I help with the harvest, and when winter snow is piling up against the walls, there's a knock on the door of the farmhouse. When I open it, there are 2 small children on the doorstep, pale and pinched with cold. Come in, the farmer says kindly. Come in, little ones, and get warm. She feeds them stew and bread, just like she did me. I know now that the meat does not come from the farm. Our animals are magical and not to be eaten. The meat we eat is rabbit or deer, wild pig or duck, preserved by some magic of the farmers. When the children have eaten, we put them to bed in front of the fire, wrapped in the warm blankets. For that night, I sleep in the farmer's bed, and she sits in her high-back chair all night. She does not need to sleep, she tells me, as often as we do. As often as we do. Over the next 3 days, the children are given simple tasks to do. They gather eggs and feed the chickens, help me carry food to the sheep and to the cows, and stir the cauldron of scraps and roots for pigs. They are good children and eager to help, so eager that twice I had to stop them from trying to carry weights too heavy for their little arms. On the morning of the fourth day, the farmer dresses them in warm clothes and gives them a basket full of food. You must go on, she tells them kindly but firmly. But because you have worked hard and obeyed well, I will give you these. She gives them a smaller basket containing 3 eggs. When you reach a river, throw down the largest egg. When you reach a mountain, throw down the 2nd egg. And when your lives are in peril, throw down the 3rd egg. Remember what I tell you, and all will be well. The children agree, and I kiss each of them goodbye before they go. Will they be all right? I ask the farmer when they are gone. Yes, they are young, but they are brave and clever, or they wouldn't have made it this far. They'll do well. After 3 years, the farmer comes to me and asks me if I wish to leave. She offers me gifts, like those for the children, that will ensure good fortune. I tell her no. I like the farm. More people come and go. Orphan children, 3rd sons, poor girls seeking their fortune, and the like. Those who are kind and generous are aided. Those who are grasping and dishonest are not. Now and then others come. Some passively human, like the old wizard. Some much less so, like the tall, shadowy creature with clawed fingers and rustling silk garments who comes now and then for milk. After 7 years, the farmer comes to me again. You have earned all the blessings you could ever need out in the world. Magical eggs, oracular piglets, whatever you wish for, I will give you. I lean on my shovel. I was mucking out the byre, and think about it. I would like to learn your magic, I tell her, and stay here. I like the farm. A long time later, I am knitting by my fire when a quiet, hesitant knock on the door makes me look up. Come in, I call, if you mean no harm. A miserable-looking youngster creeps through the door, flinching away from me and a skeletal raven sitting on my shoulder. Who are you? She asks, trembling. A farmer, I tell her, smiling kindly. Only a farmer. Come to the fire, child, and get warm. Oh, what's that? Is that another Reddit one? That is another Reddit one. Hey, Elsa. Elsa's very affectionate right now because she is very scared of the new cat, though she won't admit it. And the new cat is very interested in her, but is very cautious as well. So Elsa tries to stay close to me. Fair. I should probably look around for a couple stories myself to submit. Earn myself some logs. Okay. I'm kidding, of course. The salamander can't leave the campgrounds. We all know that we're trapped here. We did do Predators of Legend, Envy, so you should have a bit more. Just a few more. You see a 69 and you're contented. That's a good number. Okay. Castaways. Who is this by? Oh, this is also by Warpmine. Oh, Warpmine is right. Warpmine is one of the ones that's just like, yeah, you can go ahead and do it. I can approve that one right away. Auto approve is yet to be a feature because auto approve takes a little bit more work, but I can totally do it eventually. There we go. Yeah, that last one was from Desalona, wasn't it? All right. We'll probably get through all of the approved stories today. I haven't heard from a lot of different people, unfortunately. Oh, before I do this, I should probably also add an approve feature that allows me to add an author. Okay. Before I start reading, we'll add Warpmind as the author to the new one. There we go. Oh, so when I'm approving, I should add the option to specify an author, because when a story gets selected, or when it gets submitted, the author is not easy to find. I'd actually need to do additional programming for that. And so I think I'm just going to add the author through approval. Or during the approval process, I should say. Anyway, so we get another story, and this is the Ballad of Edgardo, which is, I believe, a D&D story. Is this one of the green text ones? Ah, it is. Yes, this is one of the ones that had anonymous, so I couldn't actually find the author if I even if I wanted to. All right. Hey guys, are you up for some story time? Of course you are. This is just my experience with the Freeform RP a while back, and I think it's about time I share it. It's been a long time, so sorry if some details are a bit hazy, but I remember the important bits. Behold, the Ballad of Edgardo. Get a hankering for some RP. Cruise a couple forums. Something catches my eye. Some kind of weird combination of stuff from Dragon Ball Z, Gurren Lagann, Avatar The Last Airbender, and a few other themes from different shows. Basically, Animu, the game. Honestly, kind of a cool setting after reading through it. Superpowered dudes wander around doing their own thing, having adventures, and trying to stop evil shadows from consuming the world. Looks cool, sign up and start making a character. Character had attributes, strength, speed, the usual shit. Traits, powers chosen from a big list, and spirit, which you use for doing cool shit. Had a certain number of points to spend on attributes, max strength and put into some speed. Max strength and put some into speed, endurance, and a couple into charm. Wanted to try a brawler type guy. I'll get to why this idea was a bad one later. Look at spirit rules before picking powers, because I want to do as much cool shit as possible. Spend spirit to activate powers. Different powers modified how spirit worked, and gave it an elemental alignment, which modifies damage and other crap. Basically, you spend 1 point of spirit to get 5 points of fire damage. Neat. There was also raw spirit, which has no modifier. but also no elemental alignment and couldn't be resisted. Less bang for your buck, but could be useful. Raw Spirit could also be used to raise stats temporarily, but the higher the stat, the more Spirit you had to spend. Spirit had a cap depending on your attributes. At lower levels, it was pretty low, like 10 or 20 if you got lucky. With my stat layout, I had 5. Awesome. Look through the power list to see if I can unscrew my character. Browse through the list, pretty basic stuff. Throw fire, control shadows, frost breath, whatever. Also mundane powers like sword fighting and free running. Choose unarmed combat right off the bat because I want to punch people. Still a bad idea, by the way. Keep looking, see something interesting tucked away in the list. Overflowing Spirit. Pretty expensive points-wise, but a simple power. For a simple power, but my eyes light up at what it did. Removes the spirit cap. Plus some other crap, which I glanced over at the time. But more on that in a bit. Oh, fuck, now that's pretty abusable. Figure everyone takes it, so I take it too. Take Battle Cry for a spirit buff and to blow the last of my power points. Character pretty much done. Name him Edgardo because it sounded cool at the time. Ready to go. Edgardo the Brawler sets off on his quest to do whatever. Start in the central town where everyone else hangs out to introduce myself. Describe him as hot-blooded, hot-tempered, courageous, and always itching for adventure. Honestly, pretty flat character, but whatever. I thought he was okay. Probably get laughed at for making such a naive and lowbrow character. Apparently everyone has made brooding anti-heroes who sit in dark corners and don't really do much of anything. I swear the tavern had some kind of 8th dimensional shape because everyone was in their own fucking corner from everyone else. But the last straw came from some asshole drinking his wine at the bar. Edgardo is such a stupid name anyway. Motherfucker. Edgardo did not walk in here to be mocked by a bunch of trenchcoat wearing pricks that are trying to be edgier than a goddamn razor blade factory. Take a swing and quickly discover that I am well and truly butt-fucked. Apparently unarmed combat was hosed from the start, as fists don't do shit against even the lightest armor, and don't get damage multipliers. Fantastic. Blow a spirit point just to get past his armor. Do single-digit damage. Fucker laughs and stands up. Care to try again, you pathetic wretch? Use battle cry. Can't think of anything, so I go Banzai and use the rest of my spirit points. Nothing. He dodges, draws his sword, and gives an eye-rolling disappear before he blasts me out of the tavern with a sword lightning, whatever the fuck. He spends 1 spirit point for that, and I nearly get 1 shot, even with a good amount of endurance. Fucking what? So, while I'm bleeding out on the side of the road, I take the time to browse some other characters. First up is Sword Lightning Asshole. Basically the same level as me, but better in every way. Powers are better, higher spirits, good stats. More my fault, really, because I fucked up character creation. Browse more characters. Notice something. No one has overflowing spirit. No one. Ask why. Turns out that if you make a decent character, you have more than enough spirit to do whatever the fuck you want. Even the highest level character only have about 100 cap, and it's rare to get halfway down in a normal fight. And then there was the part I skipped over. Overflowing spirit prevented you from taking elemental powers. You were basically stuck using raw spirit, which was shit. Elemental spirit had damage modifiers so high that even if you resisted it, you still took a good amount of damage. Neato burrito! Edgardo was basically useless against everything. Since I was screwed, I PM'd a mod to see if I could make a new character that wasn't crippled beyond belief. Lol, deal with it. You made it. You play it. So, recap. Everyone's a pretentious fuckwad. The mods don't give a shit. And Edgardo is beyond worthless. Great start. Pick myself up out of the dirt and limp over to get myself healed. Nope. I was broke, so I couldn't get shit. I'd have to sit my ass down and wait to heal naturally, which would take days. Fuck that, I'm already tired of this shit. So I make an attempt to steal a potion. No. Enter Militant Zero with a 0 at the end. Yes, that was his name. I cringed too. Omnipotent character number 4782 could do anything he wanted because he had been with the RP the longest. I also suspect that he sucked the admin's dick, but whatever. Teleports to me instantly. I can't do shit because I'm basically dead on my feet. Lifts me into the air with magic psychic bullshit so I can't even run. He starts going on a long speech about crime and how evildoers should be punished and how he's the best and blah, blah, blah. Then he gives me an ultimatum. Beg me for mercy and I might just let you stay in town. Otherwise I'll throw you to the shadows. Fuck no, Edgardo does not beg. Struggle, swear, spit, and basically do everything I can to do anything to get out of this. Nope. I get thrown to the roof of the building I was on and soar all the way out into the wilderness. Well, I'm dead. Fortunately, newbies get 1 free revive. I cash mine in. Zero gets super fucking butt mad about it, so I'm dead for good because he says so, and meh. Suddenly, I'm the bad guy for trying to steal and pick a fight. Yeah, okay. Mods calm everyone down, so I'm alive with 1 health in the wilderness. Last bit of charity I'm getting. I won't even survive the night. But then I met a guy called Squid. That is, like, his username is literally a guy called Squid. Beast folk were a thing, so people could have cat girls and wolf men and shit like that. A guy called Squid was, well, part squid. Literally just a big, muscly dude with a squid for a head. And yes, his full name was a guy called Squid, and he insisted that everyone call him that. Pretty cool dude. Ran into some troubles I did. Was a punchy guy like myself, but he punched people with fire. Helped me out, shared a potion, and was generally a bro. We decided to stick together and train out here because we both needed to get a lot stronger before we headed back into town. It wasn't going to be nearly that easy. Got to nighttime. Me and Squid set up a camp in a cave. Suddenly, shadows became, because mod bullshit and Zero whined enough that I was alive. I was still pretty fucked up, but I could hold my own, and Squid was in perfect shape. Still, we barely survived, mainly because Squid's fire damage was beastly. We both agreed that we wouldn't survive another fight like that, so we hightailed it out of there and back to town. Yeah, no. Invisible force shield prevented us from going back in. I wasn't surprised. Looked at the map, found a nearby town to hole up. It'd take a couple of days to get there, though. We were both out of supplies. Neither of us saw any other way, so we got to walking. Edgardo and a guy called Squid, just 2 guys on the road to adventure. Or the road to not dying horribly and somehow getting pretty petty revenge, but whatever. How long is this? NB, how long is this? Okay, it's not too much longer. Normally, when guys travel, there were random events that could be either good or bad for you. It was up to how much the mods liked you, really. The mods didn't like Squid or Edgardo. If we got something good, they'd find some way to take it away from us. We saved a lady from bandits on the first day. And by that, I mean we kicked the bandits in the nuts, grabbed the lady, and ran like hell. That night, she prison shanked Squid, took what little shit we had gathered, and bailed. When I tried to chase her, she poofed. Gone. Neato burrito. I really don't know why we kept going after that. It was obvious we were unwanted, so we really should have just quit. I think we were both waiting on the other one to give first. I didn't want to admit defeat, and I knew Squid didn't want to either. We just had to press on, no matter what. Even when we met Sword Lightning Guy again. It had been a few days on the road. We kept getting shit on. Wolves, rain, another shadow attack. Still didn't know how we lived, but we scraped by, either by running the fuck away or through sheer luck and winning a fight. 1 more day of travel, and we'd be at the village. We were so close we could taste it. But then the dick from the tavern showed up, blocking the road. Never mind how he got ahead of us, but he was, and we had to take it. Well, well, if it isn't the wretch from the tavern.
And he picked himself up a side dish, too. Squid tells him to take a hike and let us through. But this is a toll road. You'll have to pay me to pass. Let's say 100 gold. Fucking what? Tell him that he's full of shit and that nobody has that much money. Oh, what a shame. And then you'll have to pay with your lives. He pulls his sword and blasts Squid, who somehow powers through it. This gives me a chance to get up close and, well, we've established I can do fuck all against this guy. I'm banged up pretty good and fists don't do shit. Only thing I have left is spirit. A metric ass ton of spirit. See, as we were traveling, I was hoarding points. Well, not intentionally. I gained some every day like everyone else, and every time Squid and I killed something, we got a little bit more. Squid was spending his spirit left and right. I wasn't. And since I have overflowing spirit, I had a lot more points than I had any right to have at my level. Even if raw spirit was crap, a lot of crap could still wreck someone's day. Edgardo had a chance. A slim chance, but it was better than nothing. Banzai! Battle cry. Use all of the spirit. Crouch for an uppercut. Sword guy doesn't give a shit, actually laughs in my face and doesn't even make an attempt to dodge. You're kidding, right? We've been through this. You can't hurt me. You're the only one laughing, asshole. My fist connects with his chin, and so does all that raw spirit. Didn't do nearly as much damage as an elemental attack would, but it was still enough to knock him on his ass, which gave Squid the perfect setup. He jumped on Sword Guy and blew all of his spirit too. Where once there had been a face, there was now a smoking crater. Sword Guy died, and to two underdogs to boot. Predictably, he pitched a bitch fit, and so did the rest of the players. We were murderers and outlaws and generally horrible, horrible people for deciding not to deal with this bullshit anymore. Me and Squid didn't give a single fuck. We had earned our first actual victory. Sure, we were nearly dead, defenseless, and still had to make it to the village, but we won. Things were looking up, at least for a little while, and we still had to worry about Zero and his crap. Zero was some kind of king or tyrant overlord or whatever, and his village was still in his little authority zone. So when we finally arrive at the village, guess what special surprise is waiting for us? If you guessed invisible, immune to everything force field, congratulations! Give yourself a gold star. And for good measure, he teleports in and taunts us, saying he'll follow us until we're broken and mad and shut the fuck up already. He cackles and ports away. Squid falls to his knees. He's had enough. We came all this way, all for nothing. Sure, we beat someone, but he'd be rezzed and in perfect health the next day. So, what do we do now? Squid was ready to quit. Edgardo wouldn't have it. We train, Squid. We train. We hiked up the nice, grassy hill near the village, and then proceeded to beat the ever-loving crap out of each other. Whenever you got into a fight, you got a couple of points towards leveling, win or lose. The only problem is that most characters couldn't spar against one another, as they'd kill each other pretty quickly. Elemental attacks and weapons combined had huge damage multipliers, so sparring would quickly end up with the people dead. We didn't have any weapons, and unarmed combat would take days of wailing on someone to actually kill them. The only reason Squid was alright was because he had firepower. So, as long as we didn't use any spirit, we could beat each other silly, pass out, wait a while to heal, and do it all over again. It was stupid, it was cheesy, and it pissed everyone off, but it fucking worked. Some said that the shadows would attack us, but we were just close enough to the village that they couldn't. I'm still not sure why Zero or even the mods let us get away with this shit. I guess they didn't see it as anything to actually be worried about. Eventually we leveled up though. It was a slow process and there were better ways of leveling, but this was all we had. Plus, it gave me another fuck ton of spirit points. Edgardo pumped up Strength First and evenly distributed the rest. Got a power to double the rate at which he gained spirit per day. I had a plan. Squid just buffed up his fire fists. It was a good way to go.
Now we just have to find somewhere to rest properly, somewhere to regroup. We couldn't just stay and wail on each other for another level. We had gotten lucky the first time, but now there was talk of a few other players jumping us. We had to move. Neither of us knew where the hell we were going or what we were doing. We just hit the road and tried to get as far away from Zero and everyone else as we could. The mods fucked with us for the first few days, but eventually they got bored and left us alone. Sometimes they'd throw a few shadows our way, but it was nothing we couldn't handle. Random events just stopped happening for us. I think it was mainly due to us not really bugging anyone anymore. We were doing our own thing, so everyone just sort of forgot about us. Except Zero. He was still mighty pissed about me living this long. I have no idea what his deal was. Maybe it was just a challenge to his authority that I represented, or maybe he was just a colossal prick. Either way, once we left his authority zone, or whatever, he sent one of his lackeys after us. A quick look at his character sheet and I knew just how much Zero hated us. His name was Goldenharl, and the dude was basically invincible. Magic armor let him resist all elements massively, plus it was super light so he could fly around and do his ninja flippy shit. He could heal himself completely by spending a couple of spirit, and his spirit refreshed basically whenever he wanted it to. It was official. The mods just didn't give a shit. Oh, and we were screwed too. All we could do was keep going forward and hope he didn't catch up with us. He did, and damned quickly too. He met us while we were traveling along a gorge and promptly tried to knock me over the side. Goldenharl wasn't fucking around. No words, only pain. He meant business. I barely managed to dodge him, which was, of course, met with public outcry, but I was dangerously close to the edge. Squid tried a fire punch with a couple of spirit behind it. No sell, and Goldenharl got a free counter because of, fuck you, he's Goldenharl. Squid is knocked out, but it gave me an opening. I grabbed Goldenharl by his waist and give him a suplex. My high strength let me get in a few points of damage, and it put me in a better position. It didn't really matter, though, as he was back up and fully healed a second later. I helped Squid up, but we were pretty much already dead. Goldenharl finally spoke up. Any last words? Bonsai. The fucker was wide open, and his back was at the edge of the cliff, too. A quick PM to Squid was all it took, and the quick plan went off like clockwork. Squid ran diversion, going high for a fire punch to the face. Goldenharl didn't bother to dodge. He was invincible, after all. He forgot one thing. Raw spirit can't be resisted. Edgardo went in for a gut punch with all that built-up spirit from the training in the road. It wasn't enough to kill Goldenharl, not by a long shot, but it was enough to knock him backwards, and that last step was a doozy. Goldenharl fell down into the canyon, and we only stayed long enough to hear the dull thud of him hitting the ground. I could practically hear Zero grinding his teeth to powder as he tattled to the mods, who really didn't care enough to do anything. Surprisingly, I barely heard anything from the Goldenharl's player. Just a simple PM saying, "Well played." I almost felt sorry that he had to meet his end like that. After that, we were pretty much free to keep going until we hit another village. Zero couldn't get to us there, so no shield and no bullshit. We could finally rest. Well, maybe. We were still broke. And there was a small army of players after us. Apparently Goldenharl was a pretty popular character, and by killing him, we were now at the top of everyone's hit list. Fantastic! Squid slept in an alley, and I kept watch, trying to get a plan together. We basically had come to a sort of unspoken agreement. Squid was tired of Zero's shit, and so was I. We wanted him dead and broken. The problem was the two low-level characters could do fuck all against the guy. His level was literally listed as an infinity sign. When Squid took watch, I read over the fluff of the setting, looking for anything that could help us. I found it in the city of Haven. Everyone enjoying this so far? I'm enjoying this. I swear we were the only two people following the traveling rules, because the horde of players chasing us caught up to us a lot quicker than they should have. We had half a day to rest up before we had to hit the road again. I was useless without a build up of spirit, and Squid could only fend off so many before he'd die. The only route to Haven was a long, winding road through the mountains, and we'd be ambushed if we tried to set up camp anywhere. It would take too long, and time wasn't on their side. So Edgardo had a crazy idea. What if they climbed over the mountains? It was basically suicide, as the random events were especially harsh in that terrain. No one would follow us. After all, something might happen to their super special character. Squid was on board, and he brought up an interesting point. The mods were ignoring us. Everyone was so pissed off at us, but in the grand scheme of things, we hadn't really done anything major. We killed a grand total of 2 characters through sheer luck and broken mechanics, and I had basically given their idol Zero a giant middle finger for simply surviving as long as I had. And Zero could only suck so much cock. So we started climbing, making rolls and getting through by the skin of our teeth. Every once in a while, a mod would glance over and make shit hard for us, but overall, we didn't have that much trouble. That's because trouble was waiting for us on the other side of the mountain. From our perch, we got a view of the players coming for us. There was no way we could take them all, and I was waiting. If we waited, they just get to the Haven, and wait for us there. And then there was the guy waiting just underneath us. Golden Harl, back from the dead. They must have fished him out of the canyon and had him rezzed. Or maybe he'd survived the fall and healed. Who knows? We know he saw us, but he didn't move. He could have just jumped up any time he wanted and murdered us right then and there. But he didn't. After a while, Squid got tired of waiting. He climbed down, and Edgardo followed to have his back. Wait, hold up. Sorry. He climbed down, and Edgardo followed to have his back in case things went south. Squid asked him what he wanted. Golden Harl just wanted to talk. Turns out that he had more to his story than we knew about. Golden Harl was in this RP just as long as Zero was, and frankly, he was tired of Zero's shit. Golden Harl earned everything he had and didn't want to resort to whining to the mods to get what he wanted. When we asked why he tried to kill us, he said that it was either follow Zero's orders or get his shit shoved in. In a one-on-one fight, Golden Harl just couldn't compete, mainly because Zero could do whatever the fuck he wanted and no one batted an eye. After we killed him, he was basically done. He was satisfied with the ending he got, but instead Zero revived him and sent him to kill us again. Golden Harl had other plans, though. Squid was suspicious, but I believed him. I'm still not sure why. And maybe I was desperate, but I told him our plan. Technically, I told everyone our plan, as it was one of those public threads. I'm an idiot. Sue me. Golden Harl said he could get us to Haven. His story was over, and he ceased to giving a single fuck about what anyone else would say about this. He only had one condition. We had to promise we'd kill Zero and end this once and for all. Edgardo and Squid agreed. This was our only shot, and we weren't about to throw it away. A massive shitstorm erupted from the player base as we joined up with Golden Harl. Zero called him a traitor to everything the RP stood for, and everyone made such a fuss that the mods nearly banned the guy. Golden Harl had a bit of sway with the mods too, and he got lucky as shit when they took his side when he pointed out that he had done nothing wrong. With the mods appeased, that just left the army of players gunning for us. The second we hit the road, they were on us. There was no fucking around anymore, and the travel rules were basically out of the picture. A horde of superpowered loners and misfits charged towards us, flinging fire and lightning and all manner of weapons, all of them driven by their singular hatred of Edgardo, a guy called Squid, and the traitor Golden Harl. Golden Harl weathered the tide, taking kunai and fireballs and shadow spears without so much as flinching. Because fuck you, he's Golden Harl. Me and Squid ran behind Golden Harl as he cleared a path, getting us to the other side of the army. As we kept going down the path, Golden Harl stayed behind, covering our escape. To this day, I do not know if he survived or not. I will never forget his bravery. Since everyone else was doing it, we ignored the travel rules ourselves, arriving in Haven near instantly. Zero bitched, nobody heard him. There was one last obstacle, though. One last player. Kain, the Shadowmancer. This fucking guy, he had a power letting him control Shadow. His interpretation of what this actually did was very, very loose. And since he was in Haven, he could abuse this like nobody's business. As soon as we set foot in the city, Squid and me instantly get paralyzed. We call him on his bullshit. Not sure why. I control the darkness in people's heart. The darkness in everyone's soul. You are mine. Oh, eat a bag of dicks. Squid tells him that's not how it works. Kain isn't listening because it's his power, and he says that's how it works. And wah! Meanwhile, I just sit back and ask myself a question. Why can't I hold all this? Why can't I hold all this spirit? Spend infinite spirit. Break Kain's hold. Brace for whining. How? You can't resist me. The darkness is in everyone's heart. Okay, it's Edgardo's turn to be cheesy. You are wrong. My soul is a shining beacon, filled with a light and a burning hope that no shadow can touch. It is a pinpoint of justice, a shining star that will deliver freedom to the universe. I will root out the darkness, the evil of this land. No shadow will be spared my light. Kain just can't comprehend how he's about to lose. He tries the shadow paralysis thing again. No cell, infinite spirit. Who the hell do you think you're dealing with? Bonsai! Swift uppercut, battle cry, unlimited raw spirit punch. Kain gets punched into the sun. Cue shit being lost by absolutely everyone again. Squid is okay. We rest up and figure out our next move. My ultra power only works if I'm in Haven. That doesn't do us a lot of good. Squid finds out that Haven's unlimited spirit effect lingers for a day after we leave. Zero is weeks away in his city. More players are on their way to Haven, and even though I have infinite spirit, I can only use it to punch people. I'll get killed eventually. We're basically stuck until I notice that we've leveled up. I don't really give a fuck about my stats at this point, but there's a power that really catches my eye. Teleportation. I have exactly enough points to purchase it. Normally I wouldn't have enough spirit to use it, but Haven, so it works. Squid upgraded his fire punch. It was a good way to go. Noticing a theme with Squid. I tell Squid he can stay behind. This is going to get dangerous and we might not come back. He tells me he's with me to the end and he intends to see this thing through, and that he's got my back no matter what. In the middle of town square, Edgardo and a guy called Squid share a sweaty, shirtless, muscly, manly hug for all the world to see. It was super homo. Actually, we just had to be touching so I could teleport us both, but shut up. We arrived outside the city, and the shield was still up. Zero mocked us, saying that he was invincible behind his wall, and we couldn't do anything. The shield can withstand 1,000 times the force of anything you could possibly throw at it. People just keep forgetting. Raw spirit can't be resisted by anything. I'll just have to hit it 1,001 times harder. Bonsai! I still flinch when I remember typing that. So damn cheesy. One more battle cry, blow infinite spirit, and nothing. Not a damn thing. Zero refused to post an actual RP after that. I think he had a stroke or something. He posted plenty in the discussion threads, though. Everyone did. The entire community spammed the forums, declaring that I should be banned, flayed, and hung for my shenanigans. The next day, when I tried to log in, I found that the forums had been shut down due to popular opinion. I never saw Squid after that. We had never exchanged emails or anything. I like to think that Edgardo is still frozen in that moment in time, his fist crashing through the shield and connecting to Zero's big, stupid face. And Edgardo is smiling. He won. He and Squid and Golden Harl. They won.
Fun times. Fun times. It's 9:21. Well. Yeah, do we have enough time to do another one of those? Oh, what the fuck? Oh, you didn't put a no. Stories vote Castaway. There you go. Are we doing Castaways now? Even if you didn't, it's all listed under the commands. Okay. Wizard LARP is long as fuck? Okay. Cool. Boop. Okay, so this is a story by Warpmind. Which, let me just make sure that I'm doing everything in the author's note real quick, because the conditions of Warpmind are that you can do anything with his stories as long as you give him credit. Oh, I have to message him the link afterwards. Cool. I'm intending to do that with all these authors anyway. I'm gonna have to edit these on the weekend. All right, this is Castaways by Warpmind, submitted by NBFF. Karth groaned softly as he opened one of his three eyes, trying to get his bearings. The last thing he remembered was an alarm, and then something hit his head, and blackness? And now he was resting on what felt like sand? He opened another eye slowly, trying to look around. Hey now, buddy. Try not to move. You got banged up pretty badly there. I dragged you into the life pod. We landed safely on the planet below. The emergency beacon was working, and we should expect help in, 20 standard days or so. Karth opened his third eye, staring up at the human from the adjacent cabin. A most unsettling fellow passenger. Human Roger, was it not? Yeah, Roger. And you're Karth, right? The ship was hit by something, I don't know what, and went down. I don't know if anyone else survived, but I think we're the only ones to land on this island. You, unfortunately, have a number of broken bones and probably a concussion. I've set them as best I could, but you're going to have to stay in bed for a while. Karth looked up at the sky, then turned his head sideways just long enough to feel 10,000 angry stinging insects attack his neck and head. 16 star clusters, it hurts. Where did you find a bed? The escape pods. The escape pods don't have those? Roger grinned wryly. Old Boy Scout buddy. The life pod had some rations and basic tools I can make do pretty quickly. Just rest here for a bit, and I'll get to work. Karth didn't really have much in the way of alternatives, so he closed his eyes and tried to rest through the pain, hearing the rhythmic thumping and creaking of what could only be an axe against the wood. Apparently the island had vegetation, at least. Karth howled in pain as his leg was dragged sideways for a moment, and then he heard Roger's voice through the red haze. Shit, sorry, Karth, your leg slipped. I was just trying to get you onto the stretcher here, to get you off the beach and into the shelter. He whimpered a little before calming down. I'll live, human Roger. Or at least I hope so. Wait, shelter? You built a shelter and just... how long was I out? Roger shrugged. I'd say I'd been working for 4 or 5 hours in between checking on you to make sure you'll be safe. Luckily, it's a relatively low-G planet, so I'm actually able to drag you over there without too much trouble. He fished out a ration from a pocket. Here, eat this. There's enough for 2 days, 2 per day for a bit longer than we should expect to wait. And I'll see if there's anything I can forage tomorrow. Karth slowly chewed on the ration bar. It was completely devoid of flavor and packed with all the nutrients a Sophont? I'm going to go with Sophont could need, and 2 bars per day should be just a hair over the right amount for an adult Clothic. These alien names. Well, it was a little undignified, perhaps, but he could probably endure being cared for 20 days like this, so long as the human didn't insist on these strange noises he'd produced in his cabin over the course of the journey. Human Roger, that strange box of yours with the strings and the stick attached. You didn't manage to get that from the life pod, did you? Roger looked at it a bit crestfallen. Oh, I didn't realize you were a bit banjo enthusiast too. No, I didn't have time to get any belongings, mine or yours. Might have had time if you were mobile. But when I saw you take the door to the face like that, I didn't have much choice. Karth looked at Roger as though the human had suddenly turned blue and grown gills and a third eye, which would have made him at least appear like a civilized species. You didn't have a choice between saving my life and saving your own possessions? Was your cabin on fire? Was it venting? No, our cabins were not against the hole. Roger blinked. What? No, it's common sense. Life before material possessions. He shrugged and hoisted Karth's stretcher into a surprisingly sturdy-looking wooden frame, clearly fit to hold the stretchers suspended from the ground. All right, that should serve you well for now. I can get a building better. I can get on building a better bed after I've looked for more food. Karth slowly swallowed the rest of his ration bar, then closed his eyes. I think I need to sleep again. Okay, yeah. Karth slowly chewed the morning's ration bar. After 12 days, he was almost ready to lick human Roger's arm for a speck of flavor, though he didn't quite feel like testing the human's intimate zones, even for so strong a need. Though human Roger seemed to be behaving a little strangely, more so than on the ship. He'd fallen into a pattern of 3 standard days of almost frenzied energy, slowly tapering off and turning into a helpless lethargy. On the 4th day, when he'd spent all day sleeping, except if Karth needed something. It was unsettling, but he couldn't deny that human Roger had spent those waking days and nights in quite a productive manner. The shelter was quite cozy, and the new and improved bed was remarkably pleasant. Though Karth was becoming a little suspicious of those strange stains on human Roger's clothes. If he didn't know better, he'd have thought it looked like some sort of fruit juice, despite human Roger swearing he hadn't found anything edible on the island. Well, except the fresh water, of course. Thank the stars. He supposed it could be just tree sap or something similar from all the woodcutting, but still. And it was a little annoying how human Roger always seemed to have a half-eaten ration bar sticking out of his shirt pocket. Karth was stuck on 2 per day, while human Roger was gorging himself on them as he pleased. Karth was afraid. He'd asked human Roger about the strange stains on his shirt, and human Roger had become angry, shouting about how he wasn't getting any gratitude, and how he'd sacrificed so much to save Karth, and how Karth didn't understand human compassion, being a stupid alien. He'd heard rumors about how humans could behave strangely and irrationally, but this was out of place, even for the weird habit displayed so far. Karth had curled himself up in the bed as best he could with the leg braces, shrinking away from human Roger's anger, and then human Roger had stopped and just looked at him, as though he'd caught himself striking his own mother. Human Roger also hadn't reached the lethargic stage of his cycle this time, staying awake for 3 more days,
and becoming increasingly irritable and strange in the process. The 20th standard day came, and as Human Roger had started, the rescue shuttle showed up with a loud screech. Human Roger stumbled out of the little hut, eyes bloodshot, and said something to the rescuers that Karth couldn't hear. Then 3 other people entered, and 2 of them started carrying his bed out to the shuttle, clearly instructed as to how best lift the whole frame without losing Karth or jostling Karth. As he was carried out, he spotted the pile of what could only be large fruits, and a pile of what appeared to be seeds and skins from the fruits. He just stared at the piles, speechless, not even registering the other people in the shuttle as the righteous indignation began to seethe, and his gills took on a purplish hue. Karth seethed as he lay in the hospital bed. Here the human had belittled him in secret, all under the pretense of caring for him. Surely it was all out of spite for losing the dreadful banjo device of his. A Horwesi doctor approached him, giving him a cautious smile. "Well, I have good news and bad news. The good news is that your legs are almost guaranteed to heal without further intervention. The breaks were clean and the human set the bones perfectly. It's going to take a while longer for the bones to grow back together properly, of course, but it does not appear we shall have to make further corrections. Your human companion, though." Karth grumped and leaned back. "What? He ran off and said I would pay for whatever he purchased on the way out. The lying selfish." The doctor's shoulders fell, all 4 of them, in a gesture of bafflement. "The human saved your life, and you're ungrateful?" Karth sneered. "For 20 days he told me he couldn't find anything edible on the island. And yet he gorged himself on the fresh fruit every day, while I was struck with those awful ration bars." The doctor shook his head. Oh, no, nothing of the sort. Here, let me show you." He pulled aside the curtain between Karth's bed and the neighboring one, where Human Roger was stretched out, looking more gaunt than Karth had realized he'd become on the island, with a mask over his face and several tubes sticking into his arms. "Tell me, how many rations did you eat while there?" Karth blinked all 3 of his eyes at once. 2 per day, except the first and last, so 38? Why?" The doctor shook his head. "The fruits were rich in alkaloids, highly toxic ones. The life pod had a small scanner to identify edible and inedible plants. According to the scan, the fruits contained high doses of..." He consulted his tablet. "Caffeine, amphetamine, opium, cocaine, nicotine, compounds of which humans apparently have some ridiculous resistance to. You know, death welders. But where the fruit would have killed you in minutes, it instead, let me see, worked on several kinds of nerve stimulants, along with anxiety dampeners, pain reduction, and appetite suppressants. According to the rescue team, the ration box from the life pod still had 52 bars out of the original 100, meaning the human starved himself deliberately to increase your chances should the recovery team be late. It seems he has lost between 10 and 15% of his body mass, far more than what is healthy." Karth sat up and stared at Human Roger's sleeping form, completely at a loss. Why? If he was sure we'd get help in 20 days, why do that to himself? The doctor shook his head. "That's not quite right. The message in the life pod says a minimum of 20 standard days. It could be easily be as much as 40 standard days from the accident occurs until the rescue ship arrives and locates all the active pods. It seems he was fully prepared to try to stretch his health to the brink for your sake." Karth scratched his head. "But why?" The doctor looked at the tablet again. "According to the rescue team, he said you were the first alien he'd met who loves..." He squinted at the text. "What is a banjo?" Yeah. Ugh. Okay. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream here, since we don't have another story that is short enough to be completed in the remaining time. I do hope that everyone has enjoyed this stream. It's been a good time, and we will have I will have to edit the video for this. But yeah, I'm gonna see you guys all later, and I hope you all have a good night. There we go. Come on. Wait for it. Did it not? Okay, yeah. All right, so thank you to my Patreon supporters. Tenace Games, Zebgrin, Slime Hunter, Walks with Gorillas, my dad, Kremlin Kev, Desalona, Miss Mango Plays, NBFF, Alpha Mango, and Kawoke for continuing to support the stream. Note to all Patreon supporters, I have started adding secrets to the World Anvil that are actually viewable by supporters. So if you are interested in seeing some more of the secrets of the Dark Forest, feel free to, well, that's, I think, what is that, a 10? Yeah, it's a $10 minimum. Anyway, I'm going to see you guys all later. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Who do I send people to? There we go. All right. Sending you guys all over to Rosegard, and thank you very much.